Welcome back to the Small Business Show, where you get to hear the journey, find the challenge, and create solutions. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and I thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have the pleasure of chatting with a dynamic entrepreneur and strategic thinker, founder and CEO of Pixelform, Connor O'Neill. With a diverse background in business development, technology, design, and marketing, Connor has built and scaled multiple ventures by combining creativity with technical expertise. Connor thrives in fast paced, competitive environments, leading cross functional teams, managing high stakes projects, and developing cutting edge web and app solutions. His journey is marked by raising significant investment capital, expanding global platforms, and generating millions in revenue. Connor, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me
Thanks for
today.
having me on.
Of
It's good,
course.
good to be
I
here.
I am super excited to dive into your journey as an entrepreneur and all the businesses that you've built throughout the years. But before we get there, I kind of want to rewind the clock as we do with this show. I want to go back to the days of junior high school. Think back to a time when an aunt, an uncle, a mentor, or even one of your parents would have asked you, "What do you want to be when you grow up, Connor?" What was your answer to that question back then?
Hmm. Well, that's a great question. Funny enough, I didn't even finish high school. I didn't finish freshman year. I was about maybe 8 weeks in, and
Hmm.
I was never really good at school.
Hmm.
I wasn't really interested. I was already making money at that time, so it was like I was, selling sneakers on eBay to starting my own business on Twitter, which over the years just slowly started to ramp up. And, before I knew it, I was buying cars in cash. I was doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales for my business, and school just really didn't fit in that equation. I knew that if
Hmm.
I um, wasn't good at school, I better figure something else out. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, just a lot of confusion growing up. Like, I don't know where I fit in, which direction to go. Um, just trying to figure it out.
I love that. And it sounds like we should have taken the journey back a little bit further to hear
Mm.
how that entrepreneurial bug actually bit you. So it sounds like even, way back before what I was even thinking, you already had that drive. There was
Mhm.
already something in you that said, yeah, this traditional course, this path that everybody else is on, it's not working out. It's not what I like. It's not working for me. And you decided to make an alternate path. But I'm curious what it was that inspired the decision to make that path. What was it that told you, you know what? I can actually go ahead and just sell the sneakers. I can go ahead and create this thing. What was it that inspired you in that direction?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's something that was like a calling. It's like a release for me almost.
Hmm.
It's not something I'm was necessarily trying to do when I was growing up, but it just kind of came natural. It felt like um a way to express myself, a way to channel all this energy, all these
Hmm.
thoughts, all these ideas, and just kind of challenging the status quo.
Hmm.
When you grow up, you're told, go to college, do this, do that, but that wasn't really working for me. So I mean, but in my family too, there's many entrepreneurs. Like my grandfather, he started a basketball academy in Oregon, the United States Basketball Academy, which was wildly popular in China and housed a bunch of NBA players and all that. So, growing up, I was surrounded by um, entrepreneurial stuff, and I just took a liking to it. I don't know, from lemonade stands to selling snacks and stuff at school. I just kind of saw, I was like, okay, I can be doing something with my time. I didn't really enjoy just going, hanging out, doing dumb stuff with my friends.
Hmm.
It didn't really click for me. I was always like, it's got to be more, you know, to this. and
Mhm.
had a lot of discipline growing up, in sports and all that. And when I saw that not kind of pan out to something that would really benefit my future, kind of just stopped doing that about 14, 15, and just went all into business. And yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
There it is. That's the piece I was looking for. I was wondering where that bug came from. And that's kind of what I was curious about, whether or not there was someone in your family who had started a business, who had shown you that path, who made you recognize there's an alternative out here. You don't
My
have to
grandfather,
follow.
as
Mhm.
well as my dad,
That's
he's
awesome.
starting his own consulting business and really growing that from nothing, as well, really inspired
But there
me.
was a podcast and I was listening and someone had stated the quote, you can only aspire to that which you're exposed.
Hmm.
And it's so true because I hear so many entrepreneurs that I've spoken with over the years who don't become entrepreneurs until far later in life when the recognition is there that the opportunity exists, that
Hmm.
that path is something that is available to them. I think there are a lot of people over the age of 40 who didn't grow up with that sort of representation in their household, in their family, in their community. And so they didn't have the opportunity or the ability to aspire to something because they were never exposed to it. So I appreciate you giving such a clear example of, having the ability to aspire to something because you had already been exposed to it. Both your father and your grandfather having started businesses and recognizing that maybe not necessarily consulting, maybe not necessarily basketball, but there is a path and there's something out there for you. So I love that you took that and decided to run with it. What were some of the first steps that you took when you decided, okay, I've been selling different random pieces. When did you decide to take it from solopreneur sales to formulating your first business?
It really started when I was working this minimum wage job at our local athletic club. I was the
Mhm.
front desk manager. And it was a very active city, so it was always packed. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working out and playing basketball and doing all that. So I was like, oh, this will be good. But it was tough. Waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning and realizing that after the whole summer's over, I'm only making maybe 2 or 3 grand. And that's when it kind of hit me. So it was a slow day one day, and I was on my phone, and I was on Twitter, and I saw this Nike release drop, and sold out super quick, and people were making a lot of money. I think one pair went for about 2 or 3 grand, and so I started to just trace that back. I'm like, who got the most of these pairs? And that's when I met a good friend of mine, Cameron Zub. He started WAP.com,
Mhm.
co-founder, great guy. I learned a lot from him, watching him start his first online sneaker business to then kind of following in his footsteps, and you know until I got to a certain point where he really kind of had to pay attention to what I was doing, and then we became like friends and competitors. Um, yeah, he really showed me a lot, and it went from selling physical sneakers at my outlet on eBay to I'm gonna hire the best developers, programmers, have the best software to get these hyped up releases and sell access to those so I don't have to touch a physical shoe. That's what
Mhm.
really kind of got me excited. I'm like, oh wow, I could sell, you know, I mean, I only get paid on success, but my best week I sold $500,000 worth of we call them slots. So it's like a
Mhm.
slot. Like you have one slot, it's for one shoe. So you're paying before that shoe's out, and our job is to secure that shoe for you using the
Mm.
information that you provided. So it was crazy. Sneakers back in that day, people were going crazy about. Nowadays, it's definitely died down quite a bit,
Mhm.
but at that time, it was, I mean, just such an insane market. I mean, I've since sold sneaker access now. You can go on the Twitter page. It's still got about 80,000 followers, and
Mm-hmm.
it's turned into an automated affiliate site now.
Mm-hmm.
At its height, yeah, $500,000 in sales in a week wasn't foreign to that business.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunity for sure.
So you recognize there was an opportunity to scale by taking yourself out of doing the physical process, by automating what it was you were doing and recognizing that there was so much more opportunity with the automation aspect. What do you feel like were some of the headaches that you ran into when you did try to make that transition from you selling the sneakers to, automating your system to be able to sell the sneakers for you?
Well, number one, there's so many people competing. So it's like,
Hmm.
I started at zero and I didn't know anybody. So it was
Hmm.
like I just kind of had to learn on the fly. I had to pay attention. I had to really watch the people who were doing it right and be like,
Hmm.
okay, well, that's still not how I would do it, and they're doing great. So I really came
Hmm.
in with a different perspective, not understanding the market, but having a sense of like, I know I have good taste, I know I have high standards, like what would I do differently? So, part of what I did is I came in and really emphasized good branding, good experience.
Hmm.
These people are buying into hype. So I'm like, how can I incorporate that into my offerings? How can I have a nice presentation? And slowly around me, I saw a lot of my competitors and people have to step up their branding, their approach as well. So it was interesting. But some of the difficult parts of that is like you can sell hundreds of thousands of dollars for a certain release, but
Hmm.
if there is one small line of code in your software that doesn't work properly, that's not going to go through. And when you're selling these things, you're putting an authorization
Hmm.
on the card. So it's really you're only paying for success. So the model really, most people, it was like they didn't even have to think. It's
Hmm.
like I'm gonna go buy this and I'm only paying for success, or I'm gonna have to see how much they're gonna go for on eBay later on.
Hmm.
So I did also a mix of buying on certain releases as well, but that wasn't my whole objective. It was mainly um, I'm gonna sell slots for this release for $20, $50. So I
Hmm.
was even selling to resellers as well.
Hmm.
So
I love that. You came into an oversaturated market and really just took a different perspective on it and made sure to make yourself a standout player in the market.
I don't believe it's who is there first. I believe it's who is the best at what they do. There will always
Hmm.
be room for that in any market,
Definitely.
I believe.
Definitely. Definitely. I thank you so much for bringing such clarity that to that piece of the journey because I think that's something that people get really overwhelmed by and concerned with. And they look at a market and they're like, but everybody's doing that. But that means you should because you might be the best out there. You might have something to bring to the table that nobody else has seen, nobody else has imagined, and nobody else had the perspective to create. So don't count yourself out just because it's an oversaturated market. So I love that angle and that piece of it. So once you are in the market, once you've built out your first business, what do you feel was the recognition point for you that, okay, I did this. I can do this in other areas. I can do this
Mhm.
in other ways. I can build other businesses. Where was that spark in the journey? What was that pivot and what did it look like for you?
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. We're looking
Hmm.
at, um, what these other people are doing and how they're doing it. And then I got to a certain point where I was like a big player. So I'm like, okay, now I can kind of start to set the tone. And
Hmm.
one of the first things I started doing was creating separate pages off of my pages because I figured out in the Twitter algorithm that if you had 3 or 4 different accounts and people were following all of those accounts,
Hmm.
they automatically would get notified, even if they didn't have notifications on, of your posts. So I'd run giveaways and stuff. And I grew up these sub accounts to almost promote my main accounts so that I
Hmm.
could be in more control of pushing my stuff out there and kind of using my audience in a way too to help my audience. Like I created a page for people to list items to sell, and I help connect people just for free. And in tandem, promoted my services as well. So it's just like stuff like that. I got to a point where I had so many people visiting my profile. I think my best month, I had 3 million unique profile visitors on Twitter. And this is all through Twitter in the day. Uh,
Yes.
just figuring out how to crack those algorithms.
I love the way that you created the additional profiles and really utilized the tools that you had at your disposal to
Hmm.
begin scaling. It wasn't that you started looking for partners or started looking for a way to invest. It wasn't, you took what you had in front of you already and said, okay, now what else can I do? How can I grow the authority even further? How can I utilize the platforms and the tools that I have to my advantage to actually create even more. And I love that you did that because you were already making money. It's not like you didn't have the resources to just fund, growing a new business. You still took a step back and said there's creative ways I can do this, and I so appreciate that aspect because there's a lot of people who once they begin generating the cash flow start dumping money into the practice or the promotions that they're running in the first place, which depletes their ability to actually grow the business in other areas. What do you feel like really helped you as you started to grow multiple businesses, grow multiple practices? Do you feel like it was the tools, the systems, and the automations that you had at your disposal? Do you feel like it was the mentor or, the community that you surrounded yourself with? What do you feel like it was that really helped you grow?
The community for sure. I was in a group of about 30, 40 people, a Skype group, and we
Hmm.
basically ran the sneaker industry, between all the people in that group and whatever release happened collectively,
Hmm.
we get about 80 to 90% of whatever was out there. So, you know, surrounding yourself with people who are going to motivate you, people who are going to be able to, um, bounce ideas off. And not that everyone's opinion matters, but some people's matters a bit more on the context of what you're asking. So,
Hmm.
it's like it's much easier to sit and look at how someone's doing something and throw your opinions and whatever. But when you're really in the trenches doing this stuff, it's like, um, you know, and just kind of what we were a little backtrack of what we were just talking about, and being resourceful.
Hmm.
I paid somebody $20 to write me a script that auto followed people, but I figured out that I could manually do it as well, and I could follow up to about 5,000 people a day, and I'd get about 500 to 1,500 follow backs. And
Nice.
then I was able to send an automatic DM that explained my process, had all my links to how everything worked,
Hmm.
and you know uh, finding a niche too, um, where you can really focus your attention, your time. It's not like super generalized or whatever, and knowing everything about that niche and whatever, I think is also a really valuable um, thing as well, because you'd be surprised when you start to, you know, dig deeper what these people in this niche, how big it really is, how much money it really generates every year, and the opportunity. If you only go in and get just a small sliver, that's still a lot bigger than going out and trying to compete in something that's so general that might take so much other resources that you don't have at the moment to get that attention, Back to what we were saying, community and the right community, um, for sure. And putting yourself in positions that are going to push you.
Finding the right community, finding the people that are going to help push you on that journey. Because if you're not surrounding yourself with the people who are going to help you push along that journey, it's not that the journey can't happen. It's just that it's going to take so much longer. It's going to be so much more of a headache and it's going to be a lot more difficult. So finding that community and making sure to surround yourself with those people extremely important aspect of the journey. So thank you for sharing that. Share with us about Pixel Form and where you are in the journey today.
So I've been building out Pixel Form for about the last 3 to 4 years. I've always loved to build.
Mhm,
Running these other companies and operations and stuff was pretty taxing after a while. It's like it's really exhausting and so many different things to be worried about and this and that. So I
mhm,
really kind of drew back and started to develop like this service is something that I would used to go to people and pay for. And now
mhm,
over the years, I have learned and acquired that knowledge to build the things that I envision. So working with founders and, startups and people at any stage of their business to kind of hear them out and help provide a blueprint and bring their vision to reality is very it's something that I really love to do. So yeah, that's why I started Pixel Forum. And yeah, I think there's a big problem in the market today with websites. It's a kind of undesirable topic a lot of the
mhm,
time.
mhm,
They're slow, they're out of date, they're not exactly how you want them, and it doesn't align to the amazing stuff that a lot of people do today. So it's
mhm,
kind of been my goal and mission to learn everything that there is about websites. And I try to keep it simple. That's my main offering is, landing pages, websites,
mhm.
do some 3D rendering as well. And yeah, over the past 3 or 4 months, I've really hit my stride, I would say, and starting to expand and bring more people on board, grow the team,
Mhm.
and um, yeah.
That is exciting. I had the chance to take a look at a couple of your designs and your website itself. And that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to chat. I think you are extremely talented in what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing your practice grow and what Pixel Form creates in the world, because it's definitely exciting. So I thank you for sharing about Pixel Form and bringing the platform to our attention. I'd love to know if, in fact, you had a magic wand and could change anything at all in your business right now, say with Pixelform or with any of the other corps that you have previously started. So maybe not even the current practice that you're working in, but if you could see something change operationally in one of the industries that you have been involved in, sneakers, web design, what would you want to see change, and how do you feel like it would shift the industry?
What I like to see changed. I don't know if it's just one thing, but um, well, part of the reason why I'm doing pixel form is I would like for people to enjoy building their websites. I would like for
Mhm,
people to feel like it's not so out of reach to have um, a beautifully designed, responsive, quick website that really shows. So I would really like for people to understand kind of how
mhm,
important that is in
mhm,
today's day and age, and just like the impression that it leaves, whether it's good, bad. What I figured out early on was perception is really everything. That's what people are buying into. They're buying into a story, they're buying into, the things are the value is really truly perceived. So it's
mhm.
like, yeah, I'd really like for people to kind of understand how important it is and be able to communicate that properly on my end is really the importance of what I need to be doing. Um, so yeah.
I think you've done a lovely job of that. And I think the audience now understands why I was so excited to chat. So you may not recognize it, but one of my signature programs is titled Prism. Perceived
Hmm.
reality inspires successful minds. And it truly does. So, I love that what you're doing is really trying to help others bring their dream to life. And I look forward to seeing what dreams you help people bring to life. If you could go back in time and say, tell yourself just one thing, say maybe back to 14, 15, 16, before you actually started launching businesses, back when you were, selling sneakers individually at school, if you could have told yourself just one thing, what do you feel like that would have been?
Buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, Apple, there's so many. I know. I get it. That's a good one. Yes, definitely buy
But
Bitcoin.
aside from that, I would say, you know, everything is spiritual. Everything that you're doing, it's not things aren't really divided up. Some people think, oh, work is work and this is everything is spiritual and everything connects. So, just continuing to always be in close communion with God. Always, no matter what happens in my life, to just always keep that is the most important thing out of all this. Because all this, this is Earth is a place where souls are sent to evolve. So it's like um, being ambitious is great, being driven is great, but why are you doing it? So having good grounding techniques to bring you back to why you even first started and what really matters is what I would tell my younger self to really hold on to very tightly.
I have been recording this show for, I want to say, a little over a decade. And I thank you for bringing one of the best answers to this question ever.
Hmm.
Connor, it has been an absolute honor to chat with you today. I thank you so much for sharing your journey, your energy, your time, your story with us. Please share the best way for our viewers to find you.
Pixelform.com, pixlform.com.
That works. I'll be sure to include it on the show notes page. Connor, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.